The year was 3497, and the galaxy bled in silence. For over 2 centuries, a species known only as a Drexer had carved a trail of destruction through every known corner of the Orion Arm, towering beasts of synthetic muscle and serrated armor. Their black iron ships moved like shadows to the void, falling upon defenseless colonies and fortified fleets with equal ease. No warning, no parley, no demands. Just death. They were not conquerors. They were erasers of history, devourers of stars. Planetary governments collapsed in despair. The Galactic Concord, once a beacon of hope and unity, was reduced to a half-empty council chamber orbiting the ruins of the once prosperous trade hub Lyra 4. Member species: the proud Cerati, the intellectual Kel, the agile Tharn, scattered like dry leaves in stellar winds, cowering behind makeshift planetary shields, hiding in asteroid fields and dead systems. And yet, amid the spreading void of fear, one sector remained silent, not for lack of attack, but for lack of contact. So, the birthplace of humanity had vanished from all known star maps shortly after the Concord's formation. The Sol system had refused membership in the Galactic Council, sealed its borders with ancient but enigmatic techno-barriers, and faded from relevance. Rumors painted humanity as extinct, war-torn, or simply lost in madness. Their silence was considered a foregone conclusion, until the Drexer reached the edge of Sector 021, the Terran boundary. The first wave, a fleet of 12 black warhives, entered the system without hesitation. Their target: Proxima Gate, a once-abandoned human relay station orbiting a dead red dwarf. The feed went dark 10 seconds after their arrival. 2 days later, the gate reactivated, not with a scream of warning, but a message, simple, chilling. Acknowledge. We are returning your visit. No name, no frequency signature, no threat. Just a human voice, calm, male, emotionless. Galactic forums buzzed. Pirate lords held emergency councils. Species long thought neutral began fleeing their own planets. The Drexer had been answered, for the first time in galactic history. From the Oort expanse to the burning moons of Syrinx, the stars whispered the same phrase. The humans are coming. Admiral Kale Tvaris of the Cerati, exiled commander of the fallen Concord fleet, watched the footage in stunned silence aboard the Spear of Verith. The flickering transmission played again and again, just a voice, followed by static. I thought they were extinct, he muttered, wings folding tight to his sides. They were never extinct, replied his science officer, a Kel female named Rin with translucent skin and light-sensitive pupils. They were dormant. Now they are not. Kale rubbed his mandibles. Do we know what destroyed the Drexer fleet? No. Rin's eyes blinked asynchronously, a nervous tick of her species. But the Proxima relay was designed as a fallback node, not military, barely armed. They should have reduced it to slag. And instead, we get that. Kale exhaled through his nostrils, standing from the curved control chair. Outside the viewport, the blue gas giant Tyros were turned slowly, its rings scattered with the wreckage of old Concord stations. We need to find them, he said. Who? Rin asked. The humans, before the Drexer provoke something worse than extinction. On the other side of the galaxy, beyond the spiral arm's reach, a station blinked to life after nearly 3 centuries of silence. It was located beneath the surface of Pluto's shattered moon, Charon, what remained after Earth's last interstellar war. The station, codenamed Aegis Black, was buried under kilometers of ice, shielded from every scan, beacon, or signal known to the Concord. Inside, long dead lights flickered awake. Robotic arms snapped to attention. Sleeper pods hissed open. A man stepped out of one, breath foggy in the cold, his eyes sharp, unnaturally silver. On his arm, a black tattoo in ancient Terran script read, Reactor Class, 01 Thesis. He looked around the chamber as sirens whispered in low tones and command protocols streamed down his retinal HUD. Threat confirmed, said the voice in his neural implant. Target species, he asked aloud. Drexer, 12 class incursion. Full annihilation requested. The man stretched his limbs, bones cracking. Permission granted, he said. Let's go remind the galaxy why it was afraid of us. Elsewhere, the Drexer regrouped. In a hidden system cloaked in gravitational folds, the surviving minds of the hive clustered in a living fortress carved from a neutron star's remains. Their supreme shard, a consciousness born from centuries of conquest, hovered over a pool of liquefied data. This species is incorrect, it said in a voice that was not sound but force. Their silence was strategic, murmured another shard mind. We have awakened what should have remained fossilized. The supreme shard pulsed with ultraviolet rage. Then we will unmake them, all of them. Let the next wave carry not just fire, but oblivion. But from Earth, no message came. No fleet, no warning. Just a single black vessel, angular, without any visible engines, markings, or lights, emerged from behind the dark side of Neptune. Silent, empty, alive, and the war truly began. Chapter 1, Ghosts of Earth. The ship, unofficially designated Nemesis 1 by those who first encountered its silhouette, slipped through space like a shadow cast by a dead god. It moved without propulsion, without heat, without sound. Sensors couldn't track it, scanners couldn't map it, and nothing that tried to follow it ever returned. Inside its hull, there were no crew quarters, no command deck, no war room. Only a single chamber pulsed with dim red light, and in it stood the man who had once been known as Dr. Elias Rain. He was humanity's first and final answer to the galactic menace. Rain's body was human only in appearance. Beneath the skin, he was a lattice of biosynthetic muscle fibers, bone-reinforced alloy, and nanite circulatory systems that updated his biology in real time. His consciousness resided in a multidimensional quantum frame embedded in his brainstem, making his thoughts faster than light could carry them. He was the last reactor, a classified human program abandoned before first contact with the Concord. When Earth withdrew from the galaxy, the reactors were decommissioned, but Rain had been preserved, hidden, kept in deep hibernation, waiting. And now he was awake. He stood before the ship's interface, a living interface grown from silicon-infused flesh and cradled in the hollow of the chamber like a fetus of war. Its voice was female, cold, and without sympathy. Target vector calculated. Drexer Hive node in system Delta 93. Estimated presence, 1 million life forms. Primary shard mind active. Good, Rain replied. We'll start there. The interface pulsed. Weapon systems calibrated. Shall I unlock the Nix protocol? Rain hesitated. The Nix protocol was not war, it was deletion. Systems struck by it did not burn or explode. They simply vanished. Information, matter, memory, all reduced to zero. Not yet, he said. Let's see if the galaxy still remembers pain before it forgets. Far from Nemesis 1, the Drexer swarm gathered in Delta 93. Their fortress world, known only as Daxveruin, orbited a black sun, a star so ancient it collapsed into silence long before the first reptilian tribes of Earth learned fire. The planet was a monolith of hexagonal spires, each one alive, pulsing, feeding. The supreme shard's core resided deep within the subcrust, encased in a throne of negative gravity and magnetic pain. Around it, thousands of Drexer spawned in convulsing birthing pits, hatched fully armored and screaming. The hive mind was a storm of violence, raw and endless, but they were uneasy. Their first assault had not merely failed. It had been voided. An entire fleet gone, no wreckage, no return. Just silence. The same kind of silence they once inflicted. That silence now belonged to the humans. An emissary shard, young, fractal-formed, curious, approached the core. Supreme, the shadows gather. Unknown vessel inbound. Trajectory, Earthborn. The Supreme shard hissed. Engage. Engage what? All of it. The Drexer didn't do half measures. Within an hour, orbital defense, spheres the size of moons emerged from the crust. Cannons aligned, swarms readied. The void became a burning cage of movement. And then, Nemesis 1 arrived. It didn't drop from hyperspace. It simply was. One moment absent, the next directly above Thaxveruin, as though reality had misremembered itself. The Drexer opened fire with a storm that could have split Jupiter in half. Planet-crushing beams. Nuclear thought bombs. Entropy fields. Nemesis 1 stood still. The attacks reached it and vanished. No explosion. No shield impact. Just nothing. As if the space between the weapons and their target didn't agree with the rules anymore. Then the ship answered. A single beam of black light, thin as a whisper, fast as thought, struck the surface of Thaxveruin, not with noise, but with silence so complete that Drexer across the planet dropped to their knees in agony. The area struck was gone, not destroyed, removed, a perfect cylinder of landscape, hundreds of kilometers wide, now empty sky and rock vapor. Inside the fortress, the Supreme Shard shrieked in pure cognitive pain. What technology is this? Rain's voice echoed across the system, broadcast through frequencies the Drexer didn't even know they possessed. This isn't technology, he said. This is consequence. Admiral Kale Tavares watched the footage from a hidden relay satellite near Delta 93. His ship had been trailing the Drexer movement, hoping to study their patterns. What he witnessed defied every law of warfare and physics. That's impossible, he whispered. Rin stood beside him, clutching her data rod so tightly it cracked. It's not impossible. It's human. Kale turned slowly. You said they were dormant, that they chose silence. They did, Rin whispered, and now they've chosen to speak. We just never asked what they had become during their silence. The Admiral leaned forward, the flickering image of Nemesis, one glowing across his dark eyes. Do you think we can contact them? Rin turned her gaze toward the starfield. I don't think we should. Not until we know whether they remember who their allies were, or if they believe they had any at all. Back on Thaxveruin, the Drexer swarmed again, thousands of ships igniting, a last stand of madness and rage. Inside, Nemesis 1, Rain closed his eyes. Time to teach them fear. The ship bloomed. It didn't fire. It unfolded, geometry unspooling in impossible configurations, opening dimensions hidden behind physics itself. The Drexer screamed, not because they died, but because they understood. They finally realized that they had awakened not a sleeping empire, but a forgotten god. Chapter 2, The Concord That Never Was. The Drexer did not die all at once. They died in layers. Memories erased before flesh. Consciousness unraveled before form. Ships collapsing into recursive fragments of themselves. Time warped around Nemesis 1 as it completed its silent dance of erasure over Thaxveruin. But even annihilation left echoes. Fragments of data, visual flashes, audio screams, and malformed cries reached distant corners of the galaxy. Pirate queens aboard their asteroid palaces wept and drank themselves into blackouts. Military captains from shattered governments ordered immediate evacuations of entire sectors. Some species, like the Tharn, simply deactivated their own stargates and hoped the shadows would pass them by. But not everyone chose silence. Admiral Kale Tavares and Rin, aboard the Spear of Verith, tracked the aftermath through a network of decaying Concord satellites. What they saw on the edge of Drexer space wasn't a battlefield. It was a scar in the fabric of reality. Entire Drexer fleets were gone. Their fortress world reduced to a ring of drifting molecules. But more alarming than the destruction was the message that followed it. This is not vengeance. This is warning. Return to your worlds. Watch the sky. Silence is earned. That's not diplomacy, Kale muttered, slumped in his command chair. No, Rin said, voice low. It's doctrine. Kale rubbed his temples. Do we even know what they want? They want what we denied them centuries ago, Rin replied. Soul chose isolation. We mocked it. Now they've returned, not as members of Concord, but as something beyond it. What if they consider us a threat now? Rin paused, and for a moment, even her translucent skin lost its luster. Then we prepare for extinction. Quietly. But Kale didn't believe in silence anymore. We need to find the truth, he said. Not rumors, not fear. I want to know what the humans became, who they are, what they remember. Then there's only one place left to go, Rin said grimly. Kale stared. Earth. 3 weeks later, in the shadow of Jupiter's forgotten moons, the Spear of Verith entered the Sol system. The journey had not been easy. Navigating through abandoned Concord outposts and residual Drexer minefields had cost them power and morale. Half the crew had resigned to fate. The others clung to curiosity. Hope, perhaps, or something stranger. The system was quiet, but not dead. As they neared the asteroid belt, they passed ancient human relics. Ship husks covered memorial etchings. Orbital defense stations still powered, scanning them silently. Old satellites, the kind that had no business functioning after 500 years, blinked to life as they passed, watching them. Do you feel that? Kale asked. Observation, Rin whispered. We're being judged. Earth came into view like a blue and white coin suspended in dark velvet. Not the ruined husk Kale expected, nor the gleaming utopia of pre-Concord propaganda. Just Earth, whole, still spinning. But it wasn't alone. Surrounding the planet was a latticework of ships, massive, silent constructs in geosynchronous orbit. Some were the size of moons. Others moved like ideas, not objects. No weapons pointed outwards. No threats issued. They simply watched. The Spear of Verith broadcast a hail, a full diplomatic signature, Concord encryption, Cerity credentials, peace protocols. There was no reply. Then a voice, unbidden, broke into the ship's systems. Calm, human, male, Admiral Kale Tavares, Scholar Rin of Kel. You seek audience. Kale stood. Yes, we seek understanding and peace. Then disarm and approach. Kale hesitated. You know us. We remember all who watched us burn. They descended in a shuttle escorted by 2 angular craft that seemed to exist differently from the stars around them. As they entered Earth's upper atmosphere, Kale saw the surface. Restored forests, gleaming cities merged with nature, oceans untarnished by orbit fall or megastructures. There was no pollution, no industry, just life. And at the heart of it all, atop the ruins of what had once been Geneva, stood a tower made of obsidian and light. They landed on a platform that shimmered beneath their feet. Awaiting them was Elias Rain. Kale's wings twitched as he stepped forward. Rain did not smile, did not blink. I'm told you're the one who destroyed the Drexer, Kale said. I corrected mistake, Rain replied. You wiped them out. They intended to do the same to us. Kale glanced around. You rebuilt everything. In secret, hidden from the galaxy. Why return now? Rain's eyes pulsed silver. Because silence is not protection. It's delay. We gave the galaxy time to evolve. Instead, it birthed monsters. Rin stepped forward. We didn't know. If we had, You knew, Rain interrupted, turning to her. When Earth withdrew from the Concord, you said nothing. When our colonies were denied aid, you traded credits for silence. You watched our skies go dark. We were the first warning of the Drexer, and you all watched. There was no hatred in his voice, just precision. Kale inhaled sharply. Then why let us come here? Why let us live? Because this time the warning is ours, Rain said. We will not invade. We will not rule, but we will watch. From every planet, every station, every quiet moon. If another Drexer rises, if any threat emerges, we will end it before it learns to crawl. And us, Kale asked quietly, if we become the threat? Rain looked up. Above them, Nemesis One emerged from the clouds, impossible and eternal. Then you'll remember why you feared the dark. In the month that followed, the galaxy shifted. The Drexer were gone, no trace left. Systems once lost to fear reawakened. Trade resumed. Treaties were rewritten not in ink, but in reverence. And across every starport, every data terminal, every planetary network, a single line of code appeared, one no one could erase. We are listening. The humans never joined the Concord because they never needed to. They had become something else, something final. Final chapter, the silence between stars. Centuries passed. The galaxy healed on the surface. Warlords who once bathed in the blood of collapsed empires now recited trade agreements like sacred text. The surviving members of the Galactic Concord rebranded themselves as the Unified Axis, a reformation of peacekeepers, scientists, and diplomats built on a shared understanding. Not of unity, but deterrence. Humanity remained the silent force beneath it all, not participating, not guiding, just watching. But peace, as ever, was not simple, not lasting, because the galaxy remembered the Drexer. Yes, but it feared the humans more. Children were taught not to provoke the Terrans. History books omitted the full scale of their retaliation. Academics whisper their black ships and quantum devils. Some said Earth was now ruled by machines. Others believed the humans had become gods wearing the skins of men. Truth was, no one really knew, because humanity never spoke again, until the Whisper incident. It started on a moon, small, barely charted, a mining outpost left behind by a Tharn excavation crew in the Damaris Reach. The miners had gone silent weeks earlier, assumed dead in a system's collapse. No one thought to investigate, until a passing freighter picked up a transmission. They are under us, beneath the skin, not Drexer, not known, not waiting. The message was accompanied by footage, degraded, barely viewable. But what it showed changed everything. Creatures, not Drexer, something worse. They didn't walk, they shimmered, flesh that unfolded in ways that broke perception, limbs that multiplied as you looked. They came not from space, but from inside the fabric of matter. They didn't speak. They sang. Frequencies that caused blood to boil, thoughts to fracture. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to overwrite. The Unified Axis named them the Vexel, and nothing stopped them, not at first. Entire planets fell without resistance, not because of superior firepower, but because of Vexel unmade identity. Cultures ceased to remember themselves. Cities awoke with no memory of having been built. Soldiers turned their weapons inward, not out of fear, but because they forgot the concept of enemy. The galaxy screamed, and Earth still said nothing. Kale Twaris, older now, scarred and bowed by time, returned to orbit Earth one final time. Rin, long since transformed into an integrated quantum mind, hovered beside him in a containment field shaped like her old body. She had given up her species' frail form to remain aware, connected. They won't answer, Kale said, watching Earth rotate quietly beneath its ring of impossible ships. They have to, Rin responded. This is worse than the Drexer. The Vexel don't conquer. They erase meaning. That includes humanity. Kale shook his head. What if they see us as a threat now? What if this is a punishment? To be ignored while we vanish? A new voice answered from behind them. You misunderstand us. They turned. Rain stood there. He had not aged, not a wrinkle, not a falter. He wore no armor, no badge, only a simple black suit without seams, eyes the color of ancient starlight. You watched the Vexel? Rin asked. We felt them, Rain answered. They're not from this galaxy, not from any galaxy. They are recursive evolution, a loop, a mistaken creation. They infect perception. Kale stepped forward. Then help us stop them. Rain tilted his head. Help you? Kale flinched. I don't mean the Concord, he corrected, or the Axis. I mean life, consciousness, meaning. A long pause. The stars outside dimmed, subtly, unnaturally. You misunderstand us, Rain said again, softer this time. We didn't choose silence to punish. We chose it to protect. If we fought everything that threatened us, we would become the threat. Rin's voice cracked, synthetic though it was. And now, Rain looked up. The earth disappeared. Not in flame, not in war. It simply blinked out, and in its place, a door appeared. Not a portal, a door, wooden, ancient, suspended in space. Kale and Rin stared. Rain smiled for the first time in centuries. We're not sending fleets this time. No ships, no weapons. Then what are you sending? Kale whispered. A story. The Vexel spread across known space. But their advance halted, not from resistance, but interruption, where once they moved with purpose, they began to stall, to fracture. Their identity, once alien, incomprehensible, began to echo doubt, because from every system they reached, something had arrived before them. Not ships, not soldiers, but ideas, tales, poems, images, whispers, and dreams. Seeds of paradox, files that couldn't be deleted, memories of events that never happened but felt real. A planet remembered a war it never fought, and rallied. A child dreamed of a star she had never seen, and named it. A synthetic mind received a message in a language it didn't know, but wept at the meaning. Stories, human stories. The Vexel couldn't overwrite what they couldn't understand. Narrative, emotion, suffering and hope and contradiction became viruses they could not digest. The Terrans had encoded resistance into myth, into pain, into art, and slowly, impossibly, the Vexel began to fade, not destroyed, but forgotten. In time, the galaxy learned the final truth. Humanity had not become gods. They had become the memory of gods. They did not rule. They inspired. From the ashes of terror, a new age rose, built not on fear, but on vigilance, on sharing stories across stars, teaching history not as warning, but as armor, remembering, so that silence would never again be earned through blood. And sometimes, on certain nights, children on distant worlds still ask the question, where did the humans go? And their elders always answer the same. They're watching, and if we ever forget ourselves again, they'll remind us. The end.